Hello everyone, welcome to another Python tutorial series, and in this video I'm going to talk about the Ursina Engine, and today we're going to be creating a 3D Space Invaders game. So in this game we will have many Space Invaders that are falling down from the sky, and we will try to shoot them up using a gun. So let's get started. First of all, let me show you what our final game will look like. In here I have a weapon that is shooting laser beams at these Space Invaders. And when I lose, then you see that I've lost the game, and now I have to reload the game in order to play again. And also we have our score on the top left and our losing text in the center. So that's the result of today's video. So let's open up our blank Python file and import our modules from Ursina import star, and from random import randint. We're going to be using this random module to randomly generate where the Space Invaders is going to come from. So now to set up our Ursina game, we can write app is equal to Ursina and app.run. Now that we have this, let's add in our background. And to create a background, we could write entity, set the model equal to a quad, set the scale equal to 60, and I'm going to set the texture of this background equal to assets, and it's going to be blue sky. Assets. I'm going to run this, and here you see that I have my background as a blue sky. Okay, so now let's add in a field entity, and we're going to set the total transparency to 0 in the color.rgba parameter. So let's first create a field size variable, set this equal to 19, and we're going to create a field entity. And field is equal to entity with the model equal to a quad, the color equal to color.rgba, and it's going to be 255, 255, 255, 0. So the scale equal to 12 on the x, 18 on the y. Set the position equal to, and for the x, it's going to be field size divided by 2, and here we're using integer division, and for the y, it's field size divided by 2, and for the z, it's negative 0.01. So now that we have this, we're going to add a camera to the scene. And in order to change the position and rotation of the camera, we could write camera.position and set the new position. I'm going to set the new position to field size divided by 2 for the x, negative 18 for the y, negative 18 for the z. I'm also going to rotate the camera, so camera.rotation x is equal to negative 56. I'll save and run this, and now I have just a better view of this background, and it looks a lot better. All because I moved the camera and rotated the angle. Okay, so now let's create a player class for the gun that we're going to be using later. Now, let's create the class at the top. I'm going to create a class player of a parameter entity and create a define init function of self. I'm going to call super.init and set self.parent equal to the field, and we're setting the field as the parent entity. Self.model equal to a cube. Self.color is equal to color.orange. Self.scale is equal to 0.1, 0.2, 0.2. So it's going to be 0.1 on the x, 0.2 on the y, and 0.2 on the z for the scale. And I'm going to set the position equal to 0 on the x, negative 0.5 on the y, negative 0.1 on the z. and self.dx, and this is going to be the change, the moving speed in the x direction for the player, and that's going to be equal to 0.5. So now let's create the player object. Right here in our main, I'm going to write player is equal to player, and all I do is create a player object of this player class. So I will save and run this. Now you see that I have my weapon basically in the center. However, if I try to move it left or right, nothing really happens because we haven't added an update function, and we haven't really checked for keyboard input. So now let's add this update function. Let's basically move the player. So in this player class, I'm going to define update as my update function, and player.x. Oh, actually, not in this update, not in this class. It should be outside of this class. So define update and player.x plus equal to held keys right arrow, and so this will check if the right arrow is held on your keyboard times time.dt multiplied by player.dx, and this will move the player to the right when necessary. Player.x minus equal held keys left arrow times time.dt times player.dx. And so if I save and run this, when I press the right arrow, you see that the weapon does go to the right. When I press and hold the left arrow, the player goes to the left. And so I can move it freely. Let's close this. And now let's create our invaders. So we have a basically working, moving player, and so let's add in our Space Invaders. And we need to create another class for each invader. So I'm going to write class invader, parameter entity, and define init of parameter itself. I'm going to call super dot init. Self dot parent is equal to the field. I'm setting the field as the parent. Self dot model is going to be equal to a quad. I'm going to set self dot texture equal to a PNG that I have on my computer. So assets alien.png. And so this is a pre-downloaded image. I'm going to set self.scale to 0.1, self.position to equal to a rand int -50, 50 multiplied by 0.01, rand int 80, 120 multiplied by 0.01, -0.1. And so all this does is that it generates a random position on the X and on the Y that the Space Invaders will spawn. And you'll notice that I use random integer from -50 to 50 multiplied by 0.01. And all this does is that it generates a larger range of numbers from -5 to 5, which includes decimal points. And that's the same thing for this Y. So it's more, there's more variety by doing this instead of just rand int -5 to 5. And now let's write self.collider, and since I want these aliens to basically be hit by a beam, I want to set it equal to a box collider, so it can actually collide with the beam. And self.dy is equal to -0.15, and this is the speed in the y direction that the invaders are going to move. Okay, so now let's create our invaders list. So invaders, I'm going to have a list of invaders, and this is going to keep track of all the current invaders on the screen. And for invader, or for just I in range 10, invader is equal to invader, and so I'm creating an invader object of this invader class. And now I'm going to append each object into this list. So invaders.append invaders. And here, I iterate 10 times to just create 10 invaders. I'm going to run. And here we say that our invaders are over there. So we have spawned them. And if I run this again, they are all in a different position because I generate the positions randomly. And you might notice that some of these invaders are outside of this window, and that's because the Y positions are random. And while we're playing the game, they're going to be moving forward, and they're not going to stay there. So now we actually need these invaders to move. And let's do that. In this update function, just where we move the player, we're also going to move the invaders. So I'm going to create this global invaders variable, which was the list that stores each invader, and for invader and invaders invader dot y plus equal to time dot dt multiplied by invader dot dy. And so if I run this, let's see, invader dot y plus equal to time dot dt multiply by invader dot y for invader and invaders. Invader dot dy. Oh, so this should be invaders dot append invader because I'm appending the object, not the list. Now if I run this, you see that our invaders are coming towards me. They're falling down. And if I run this again, they're all in a different position. Okay, so that works. And now let's create our bullet class. And I really want to, be able to shoot these invaders so that I can win the game. So we want to create our lasers or our bullets. So above here, above our player class, or actually below our invader class, I'm going to create a class of bullet with parameter entity. And so define init of self super dot init. I'm going to set self dot parent equal to the field self dot model. I'm going to set the bullet model equal to the cube. Self dot color, and I'm going to have the lasers be equal to color dot green. Set the texture self dot texture equal to assets laser dot png, and this is a preloaded image. Self dot scale equal to 0.02 on the x, 0.1 on the y, 0.1 on the z. Self dot position equal to player dot position, so I'm moving the bullet along with the player. Self dot y is equal to player dot y plus 0.2, and that's going to be the initial y position of the bullet. Self dot collider is equal to a box collider, and this is because I want the bullet to be able to collide with our invaders. And remember, I did add a box collider to my invaders as well. And I'll also add self dot dy is equal to 0.8, and this is going to be the bullet speed. So next we're going to create the input function so that every single time the space key is pressed, the bullet will be created and shot. So below this define function, I'm going to create defined input, or behind underneath this update function, I'm going to create this input function, and the parameter is going to be key global bullets if key is equal to space. So if the key presses space, then I'm going to create a bullet object, and bullets append bullet. And bullets is going to be a list that holds these bullet objects, and I'm going to create that quickly down here. So bullets is going to be initially an empty list. And we should be, now we're able to fire the bullets. So if I run this, I press space, we are able to fire the bullets, but they're not really doing anything. They're not moving, they're not stopping the invaders at all. So we have to basically add movement. So now in this update function, instead of just moving our invaders and our weapon, I'm going to create this global bullets, and I'm also going to iterate through bullets. So for bullet and bullets, bullet.y, I'm going to move the bullets plus equal time by dt multiplied by bullet.dy. So now if I run this, the bullets should be firing and moving forward, which they are. So I could keep pressing and spamming, and endless bullets will be shot out. However, you saw that, well, the bullets didn't really collide with the Space Invaders, so now we need to add collision detection. And to do this, we could do in the update function, where for each bullet that is shot out, we want to check the hit info. And that's going to be equal to bullet.intersects. And so if hit info dot hit, so if the bullet hits something, then bullet.x is equal to 10, and if hit info dot entity dot x is equal to, or not if, then if hit info dot entity in invaders, so if what the bullet hit was an invader, then hit info dot entity dot x is equal to a rand int from -50 to 50 multiplied by 0.01, and hit info dot entity dot y is equal to a rand int 80 120 multiplied by 0.01. And so now if the bullet hits the target, the bullet will be gone, and the target will be reset to a new position on top. And in this game, there will always be 10 invaders at any time, and of course you could change this number. You could change this number by changing this for loop to any range. If you want more invaders, you could change this to something like 15, 20. If you want less, something like 5, 6 might work. And now if I save and run this, I'm going to shoot these invaders, and well, they are getting hit. They're getting shot at, which is working. But if I let one of these invaders get past me and I lose, then you'll see that really nothing happens because we haven't really accounted for that yet. So now we want to let's keep track of our score. We want to know how many invaders we've defeated. So in our main, let's create a score variable. So score is 0, and that's going to be our current score. And we're going to be creating text, and text is going to be equal to an empty text right now. So in this update function, we want to also update our score and text. So whenever the bullet hits one of the invaders, all we want to do is update the score, so score plus equal to 1. Set the text.y equal to 10. And all this does is that it throws away the previous scoreboard. And we're going to create a new text. Text is equal to f score. And the score is going to be the score parameter or score variable. Set the position equal to -0.65, 0.4. Set the origin equal to 0, 0. Set the scale equal to 2. Set the color equal to color.yellow. Set the background equal to true. And if I save and run this, if I shoot these, you'll see that my score does appear on the top left. And every time I kill one, the score updates every single time. However, again, if one of these things, invaders, come past me, I don't lose at all, and that's a problem. And this is really an unfair game. So we want to basically check for the player losing. So we want to let's create a boundary, and this boundary is going to check every time an invader falls below the boundary. Then that just means that the player loses. And in order to do that, we want to do this inside of our update function, and we want to check each invader. So if invader.y is less than negative 0.55, then I'm going to create an entity, the model equal to a quad, set the scale equal to 60, and set the color equal to color.gray, color equal to color.gray. I'm going to set the player.y equal to 10, and set the text to something like you lost, reload the game, something like that. I'm going to set the origin of this text to 0, 0, set the scale to 2, the color is going to be equal to color.yellow, and the background is equal to true. So now I will save and run this, and I will purposely let one of these Space Invaders get past me, which shouldn't take too long. And there you go. So now it says you lost, reload the game. And so I'll close this, and I'll reload. And now we have a brand new game. So now that's done. So our game is basically done, all the components. And the only thing we need to add is release sound. So let's add in our sound effects, because sound is a crucial component to games after all. So we're going to first add a firing sound. Whenever we fire a bullet, it's going to make a laser sound. And that's going to happen inside of this input function. So if the user presses space, I'm going to add audio. And this audio is going to be in the assets folder, laser sound.wav. I'm also going to add a sound whenever the bullet hits a Space Invader, and that's going to be like an explosion sound. So right here, audio, and assets, explosion, sound.wav. And if I save and run this, notice that there is sound shooting bullets, and there's an explosion sound. Okay, so now we have a fully functioning game, a 3D Space Invaders game. This is the end of this video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.